friends, colleagues. If you were to walk into any bookstore, any airport shop, you would see them. The shelves are lined with books promising quick fixes, hacks for happiness, and shortcuts to success. The message is loud and it is clear: faster is better. Do more, be more, and do it now. But I want you to pause for a moment. I want you to consider a different question. Not, what techniques can I learn to manage my time? But rather, what if the way we see the problem is the problem? There was a man who asked that very question. He was not a peddler of simple answers. He was, at his core, a teacher. He observed that our modern world, for all its efficiency, was grappling with a deep, internal ache, a hunger for integrity, for trust, for a sense that our lives are meaningful. His great insight was this: that true success, enduring success, cannot be built on the unstable ground of personality. It must be built on the bedrock of character. He taught that there is a fundamental difference between the personality ethic, the social techniques, the positive attitudes we put on like a mask, and the character ethic, the timeless universal principles of fairness, integrity, honesty, and human dignity. He invited us to look at the world through a new lens, a simple yet profound pattern he called the maturity continuum. It begins with a choice we all must make, the choice between dependence, independence, and interdependence. First, we move from dependence, the mindset of "you take care of me," to independence, the mindset of "I can do it myself." This is the foundation of self-mastery. It's built on what he called the private victories. Habit 1, the power to choose our response. Habit 2, to begin with a clear vision of the end in mind. And habit 3, to put first things first. But here is where so many of us stop. We believe independence is the ultimate goal. This is an incomplete picture. The higher, more mature and more rewarding path is the move to interdependence, the mindset of "we can do it together." This is the world of public victory, of building rich, enduring relationships through mutual understanding, collaborative synergy, and a focus on mutual benefit. And at the very center of this framework, giving it life and nourishment, is what he identified as the single most important habit. Habit 5, seek first to understand, then to be understood. Most of us do not listen with the intent to understand. We listen with the intent to reply. We are busy speaking, preparing our next sentence, filtering everything through our own autobiography. But genuine influence, genuine connection, can only begin when we have the courage and the humility to step into another's world and see things from their perspective. His work was never about a checklist. It was about a continuous process of learning and integration. It was about the sharpening of the saw, the daily renewal of our physical, social, mental, and spiritual selves so that we can live life as a constant, exciting adventure of growth and contribution. So, who was the man behind this movement? He was a voice calling out above the noise, reminding us that in the space between stimulus and response lies our greatest power, the freedom to choose. He was a mapmaker, offering not a shortcut, but a true north, a compass pointing toward principles that do not change, even as the world around us never stops changing. His legacy is not merely in the books sold or the seminars held. His legacy is in the boardrooms where leaders choose to listen, in the homes where families build mission statements, and in the quiet, private moments when an individual decides to act based on principle, not on impulse. His legacy is the simple, powerful truth that to change your life, you must first change your paradigms. And in doing so, you don't just become more effective. We live in a world that often celebrates the quick fix, the shortcut, the personality that can charm its way to the top. We see this everywhere. In the glossy advertisements promising instant success, in the political figures who rely on charisma over substance, in the business leaders who are celebrated for a single quarterly win, regardless of how it was achieved. This is what can be called the personality ethic. It's the external veneer, the social techniques, the positive mental attitude, the art of public relations. There is nothing inherently wrong with these skills. They can be effective. But they are a dangerous foundation upon which to build a life, a career, or an organization. They are secondary. When we make them primary, we build our house upon the sand. The moment the storms come, the moment of crisis, of pressure, of difficulty, the facade cracks, and the structure collapses because there is no underlying strength to hold it up. This approach is reactive. Its energy is drawn from comparing oneself to others, from seeking external validation, from a deep-seated fear that one is not enough without the title, the recognition, or the applause. In stark contrast stands the character ethic. This is not about a set of behaviors to be adopted, but a set of principles to be lived. It proposes that there are timeless, universal principles that govern human effectiveness. Principles such as integrity, humility, fidelity, temperance, courage, justice, patience, industry, simplicity, and modesty. These are not inventions, they are discoveries. They are natural laws in the human sphere, as real as the law of gravity is in the physical world. You can ignore them, but you cannot avoid the consequences of ignoring them. True, enduring success and genuine happiness are the fruits of aligning our lives with these principles. The character ethic is about primary greatness, who you are, not just secondary greatness, what you have achieved. It is the bedrock. It is the foundation of trust. You cannot have trust without integrity. You cannot have effective collaboration without mutual respect. You cannot have sustainable growth without humility. This is the work of a lifetime. It is an internal process of growth and alignment. It requires deep introspection, the willingness to confront our own weaknesses, and the courage to live by our conscience. It means doing the right thing even when no one is watching, especially when no one is watching. It is the hard, often unglamorous work of cultivating the inner garden, rather than just painting the leaves on the outside. When you operate from this center, your actions are not techniques, they are expressions of your character. Your influence is not manipulative, it is authentic. Your success is not an accident. It is a natural consequence of who you have chosen to become. The shift from the personality ethic to the character ethic is a fundamental paradigm shift. It is a change in the very lens through which we see ourselves, our relationships, and our challenges. It moves us from being a product of our circumstances to being a product of our choices, from a life of dependency on external validation to a life of inner, directed integrity. The reference for the character ethic over the personality ethic is down in description. We live in a world saturated with communication, yet so often, true understanding remains elusive. We have countless tools to speak, to broadcast, to share our opinions with the world at the push of a button. But we have forgotten the most critical component of all, the art of listening. Not the kind of listening where we are simply waiting for our turn to talk, rehearsing our response while the other person is still speaking. Not the kind of listening that is merely an act of hearing words while simultaneously preparing a rebuttal, a piece of advice, or a story of our own that we believe is more compelling. This common approach is autobiographical listening. We filter everything we hear through our own experiences, our own values, our own autobiography. When someone shares a problem, we immediately diagnose it based on our own life and prescribe a solution that worked for us. When someone expresses a feeling, we quickly reference a time we felt the same way, effectively shifting the focus back to ourselves. We are so eager to be understood, to fix, to correct, to inject our own point of view that we never truly step outside of our own skin. This creates a fundamental disconnect. The person speaking does not feel heard. They feel evaluated, judged, or dismissed. They sense that our agenda is not to understand their world, but to maneuver the conversation back to the safety and familiarity of our own. This breeds frustration, defensiveness, and a breakdown of trust. The foundation of the relationship becomes transactional and fragile. The principle of seeking first to understand is a radical departure from this norm. It is an act of profound courage and humility. It requires us to silence our own inner voice, to set aside our autobiography, and to genuinely seek to enter the perceptual world of another person. This is not about agreement. It is about comprehension. It is the deepest form of respect you can show another human being, to value their perspective enough to want to see the world as they see it, to feel it as they feel it. This is empathetic listening. It is listening not just with your ears, but with your eyes and with your heart. You listen for feeling, for meaning, for the underlying concerns and unspoken fears. You are trying to discern what is truly important to them, what paradigm is shaping their view of the situation. This kind of listening is a deposit of immense emotional currency. When people feel genuinely understood, the walls of defensiveness begin to crumble. The energy that was once spent on protecting their position is freed up for problem solving and creativity. They become more open, more receptive, because they trust that you have their best interests at heart. They feel safe. Only from this platform of trust and understood reality does real influence become possible. Your ability to then be understood is dramatically amplified. Your words, your advice, your perspective will land on fertile ground, because they are no longer perceived as a threat from a foreign paradigm, but as a contribution from a trusted ally. Your diagnosis will be accurate, because you have done the work to understand the real problem, not just the symptoms you assumed were there. This principle turns communication from a debate into an exploration, from a battle of wills into a collaborative search for truth and mutual benefit. It is the gateway to synergy, where the combined understanding of multiple perspectives creates solutions that are far superior to anything any individual could have conceived alone. The reference for seek first to understand, then to be understood is below in description. It is a profound and unsettling question to ask oneself. Suppose today were your last day. What would you want to be remembered for? What difference would you hope to have made? What character would you want others to attribute to you? This line of inquiry is not about morbidity, it is about clarity. It forces a confrontation with the most fundamental of human realities, that we are architects of our own lives, and yet, so many of us live as tenants, simply occupying the space, reacting to the weather, and dealing with problems as they arise, without ever considering the blueprint. We become so efficiently busy, climbing the ladder of success with tremendous energy and speed, only to reach the top and realize the ladder has been leaning against the wrong wall the entire time. We are caught in the thick of thin things, managing our time, our schedules, our inboxes, without ever pausing to ask if these activities are leading us to a destination we truly value. This is the reactive life, a life lived by default, shaped by the agendas of others, the urgency of the moment, or the shifting sands of social expectation. It is a life of motion without a clear sense of direction, where activity is often confused with accomplishment. The principle of beginning with the end in mind is the antidote to this aimless drift. It is based on the powerful idea that all things are created twice. There is a mental, or first creation, and a physical, or second creation. You must build the house in your mind on the drawing board before you ever swing a hammer or lay a foundation. The physical creation simply follows the path of the mental one. To try to build a life without this first creation is to invite chaos, to allow circumstance and other people to dictate the design of your existence. This first creation is the act of leadership. It is the work of defining your vision, your values, and your direction. It is the process of writing your own script, rather than accepting a part in someone else's play. One of the most practical applications of this is the creation of a personal or organizational mission statement. This is not a list of goals or a set of vague aspirations. It is a constitution. It is a written document that captures what you are about, your core philosophy, your most deeply held values, the principles you will use to make decisions, the kind of character you wish to cultivate, and the contributions you hope to make in the various roles of your life. It becomes the criterion for decision-making, the blueprint against which you measure all other choices. When an opportunity arises, you can hold it up to your mission statement and ask, does this align with my deepest values? Does this help me become the person I have decided I want to be? Does this move me toward the destination I have defined as meaningful? This shifts the paradigm from being managed by the urgent to being led by the important. It moves you from efficiency to effectiveness. It provides a profound sense of purpose and resilience, because when the storms of life hit, the disappointments, the setbacks, the criticism, you are not anchored to the fleeting opinions of others or the temporary pain of the moment. You are anchored to your own internal compass, to a vision that you have consciously chosen and defined. Your life becomes a proactive creation, a journey toward a destination that has personal significance, imbuing even the most mundane tasks with a sense of meaning, because you understand how they fit into the larger, integrated whole of your design. The best example or reference is below in our description. So much of the world operates on a fundamental paradigm of scarcity. It's a mindset that sees life as a finite pie, where if one person gets a big piece, automatically, there is less left for everyone else. This underlying script fuels a win-lose approach to human interactions. In this frame of mind, your success comes at my expense, and my victory necessitates your defeat. We see it in the courtroom, in the competitive marketplace where companies seek to obliterate their rivals, and even in families where siblings compete for parental affection. It's a model rooted in comparison and competition, where to be powerful, others must be powerless. It creates a world of dichotomies, strong or weak, winner or loser, top dog or underdog. The energy here is defensive, protective, and ultimately divisive. It builds walls and fosters distrust, the opposite but equally flawed. Response to this is the lose-win posture. This is the paradigm of the doormat. It's the belief that to be accepted, to be loved, or to avoid conflict, I must lose so that you can win. I suppress my own feelings, abdicate my own needs, and allow others to dictate the terms. While it may seem noble on the surface, it is ultimately a failure of self-respect, leading to repressed emotions, pent-up resentment, and relationships that are built on imbalance and inauthenticity. Both win, lose, and lose. Win are dysfunctional. One is arrogant, the other is weak. Both are born from the same scarcity mentality, the same belief that there simply isn't enough. Enough credit, enough recognition, enough love, enough success to go around. The alternative is a paradigm of abundance. This is the radical belief that there is enough success, enough recognition, enough profit, enough joy for everyone. It is the conviction that one person's success does not necessitate another's failure. In fact, it posits that through collaboration, the entire pie can be made larger. This is the essence of the think win-win frame of mind. It is not a technique, it is a total philosophy of human interaction. It is a commitment to mutual benefit in all our engagements. Win-win is not a compromise, where both parties give up something and are left somewhat dissatisfied. Compromise is 1+1.5, it is a splitting of the difference. True win-win is synergistic, it seeks solutions where 1+1 and 3 or 10 or 100. It requires a unique combination of courage and consideration. You need the courage to express your own needs, your own desires, and your own boundaries clearly and respectfully. Simultaneously, you need the consideration to be genuinely interested in and empathetic to the needs and desires of the other person. You are not a dictator, and you are not a doormat. You are a collaborative partner. This approach transforms negotiations from adversarial battles into problem-solving sessions. It transforms management from command and control into empowerment and alignment. It transforms personal relationships from power struggles into partnerships. To think win-win is to believe that the highest and most productive victories are those where all parties feel valued, respected, and committed to the outcome because they have all benefited. It is to invest in the emotional bank accounts of those around you, creating reserves of trust that make collaborative, creative problem-solving possible. It moves human energy from fighting over a fixed slice of the pie to working together to create a larger, more delicious one altogether. Consider the woodcutter, sawing away tirelessly at a thick, stubborn tree. His blade is dull, the teeth rounded from overuse, each pass of the saw requiring immense effort and yielding only a shallow cut. He is working hard, sweating, utterly dedicated to his task. When someone suggests he pause to sharpen the saw, he dismisses the idea without a second thought. "I can't stop now," he insists. "I'm too busy sawing." This parable illustrates a fundamental human tendency to become so consumed by the daily production of results, the sawing, that we neglect the very instrument that produces them. We push our bodies, our minds, our relationships, and our spirits to the point of exhaustion, relying on sheer willpower to maintain an unsustainable pace. We believe that the path to success is paved with relentless, unceasing effort. We sacrifice sleep for more work, skip exercise for another meeting, replace deep reading with scrolling headlines, and forego meaningful connection for the sake of ticking off items on a to-do list. This is the great irony of productivity. By failing to renew the source of our productivity, we, like the woodcutter, ultimately diminish our capacity, our effectiveness, and the quality of our results. We are burning the candle at both ends, and in the process, we are burning out. The principle of sharpening the saw is the conscious, disciplined practice of self-renewal. It is the recognition that true effectiveness is a function of the instrument, not just the intensity of the effort. You are the saw, and to maintain your ability to perform, to create, to contribute, and to live a rich, fulfilling life, you must regularly and systematically invest in preserving and enhancing your greatest asset, yourself. This is not a single activity, but a continuous, balanced investment across the four fundamental dimensions of our nature. The physical dimension requires caring for your body through purposeful exercise, adequate rest, nutritious food, and effective stress management. It is the foundational dimension, for a tired, malnourished body cannot sustain a sharp, focused mind. The mental dimension involves ongoing education, deepening your knowledge, engaging in serious reading, writing, and problem-solving that stretches your cognitive capacities. It is about keeping your mind agile and curious, moving beyond the passive consumption of information to the active creation of thought. The social-emotional dimension focuses on the renewal of your relationships and your inner security. It is built through acts of service, practicing empathy, nurturing a deep sense of intrinsic worth, and contributing to the lives of others. This is where you cultivate the emotional resilience to handle challenges with grace, and to interact with others from a place of abundance, not scarcity. Finally, The spiritual dimension is your core, your center, your commitment to your value system. It is renewed through spending time in nature, through meditation, through prayer, through immersion in great music or art, or through any practice that connects you to a sense of purpose and reminds you of the principles that guide your life. This is not about leisure or escapism. It is about purposeful renewal. It is the most profoundly productive activity you can engage in, for it is the one that makes all other activities possible, effective, and sustainable. It is the shift from being a resource that is depleted to being a resource that is renewed. And so, we see that these are not 5 separate ideas, but a single integrated map for a life of effectiveness and meaning. It begins not with a set of techniques, but with a fundamental choice to build our lives upon the bedrock of character, to value who we are over what we appear to be. From that foundation of integrity, we gain the vision to begin with the end in mind, to ensure our ladder is leaning against the right wall. We find the discipline to put first things first, to act based on importance, not merely urgency. And as we engage with the world, we choose the courage and consideration to think win-win, to see life not as a finite pie, but an expanding feast. We practice the profound humility of seeking first to understand, unlocking the door to genuine connection and influence. And through it all, we must remember the woodcutter, to regularly sharpen the saw, to renew ourselves in body, mind, heart, and spirit, for we are the instrument of all we wish to achieve. This is not a one-time program, but a continuous upward spiral of growth and learning. It is the path from dependence to independence, and finally, to the rich, synergistic reality of interdependence. It is the journey of becoming. The research